Boobs, thank you for
Amazing, isn't it? This
thank you for,
technology thing.
yes, it is. Thank you for taking the time to do this interview. Much respect to you. We haven't heard from you for a long, long time. For those of you who don't know, Disorder formed in 1980. This is Chris Boobs Neill, former singer from Disorder. Before we start the interview, what is going on in Spain? Because there's all these Black Lives Matter protests going on all over America. How are things going on in Spain right now?
Yeah, it's not as prominent as it is in the United States or in the UK at the moment. Yeah, I think Spain's just having a bit more of a laid back. It seems to be sort of an Anglo-Saxon thing.
Okay.
I think in Spain, well, they do have, of course, they do have a rather checkered history of, with the Incas, with the Aztecs in South America, South American slavery, and doesn't seem to be that much activity here. Not that I've noticed. I think maybe people are more concerned at the moment about the coronavirus. Seems to be, yeah.
Speaking of coronavirus, what have you been doing during the lockdown?
Well, I've actually just finished like a master's degree that I was doing with I was doing through a Swedish university. So I've just got to the stage where I was doing the sort of thesis, the end of master thesis, and so I've just really taken advantage of doing that.
Oh wow! What degree?
It was on the emotions of psychology. It was a master on the emotions of psychology.
Oh wow, that is awesome. Now the most important question: why did you leave Disorder?
Right, yeah, because I couldn't really keep it together any longer. By the time sort of Disorder by this time had been pretty much installed in Scandinavia. The rest of the band were living pretty much full time in Norway. And I was really, I'd sort of really gone off the rails a little bit. I think I was a bit out of control at that time. I thought I was, I had I had a habit, and it was very difficult to sort of keep all that together. I couldn't, so it was just, I couldn't even get to practices, let alone be in a band.
So was your last recording was a Live in Oslo album that came out in 1985? Was that your last recording with Disorder?
Yeah, that would be the last one that I did. Yes, exactly. That's right. Yeah.
Speaking of, you say you study psychology. Is it because like in the old days, Disorder put out a mental disorder 7-inch dealing with mental issue? Under Their Scalpel Blade was dealing with mental issue. Was that why? I'm just curious. Was that why you did psychology, or?
Well, that wasn't a sort of direct result of that single. But obviously, I think me and probably a lot of other people at that time were maybe troubled individuals and maybe had difficulty in fitting in with society, and punk rock allowed us this sort of escape where the sort of misfits could fit in, if you like. And so mental health has always been a bit of an issue, and the places where we used to live, in the squats that we used to live, they were pretty much open houses, and they would attract people who again had difficulties fitting in with society, and maybe I wouldn't say mental health issues, but certainly difficulties in living within the constraints of what society expected. And I was the same, and many people had their their ways of dealing with that, if you like, you know, and mine was sort of seeking oblivion, and that's pretty much what I sort of set about doing for quite a few years. You know.
So, like, by looking at disorders, some of the cartoons and the lyrics during the 80s, was a lot of mental issues dealing with drinking to escape from the problem. Is that why it like has so much drinking stuff? Was that, or just the English culture?
Well, I think a little bit of sort of a mixture of the two.
Uh-huh.
I mean, certainly, I mean, I remember back in those days, I mean, life just really used to consist of sort of getting up in the morning and just getting out of it as possible, all day, every day. And that's just basically what we did. And I just don't think at that time I could have coped any other way. You know, and so I think, yes, that is part of that sort of British culture, but in no way was this sort of a healthy, sort of laddish, down the pub sort of culture, because we didn't drink like that. We didn't drink in the pub. We didn't go to, well, maybe one day a week or something, but normally, you know, it would just be sort of drinking with friends on your own. And, you know, at the end of the day, it would be seeking oblivion and having fun, which sort of went hand in hand, which was quite nice, you know, and that was I think that was the attractive thing about that. And, you know, being in a punk rock band sort of was a great platform for continuing that in a sort of street credible way. You know, you could get away with, you know, drinking excessive amounts, getting completely out of it. It was sort of half expected in a way. So it was perfect for me, you know, as a misfit who couldn't live, you know, in society in a normal way as most people do.
My friend Mark from ADS, he has a question for you. He says, make homebrew not war, not over, not out. Ask Booth if that is still his motto. Is that still your motto? That's what Mark wanted to know.
Well, certainly, yeah. If you know, in a choice between war and homebrew, I would always choose homebrew. Absolutely, yeah, of course. Fall over, not out. Yeah, well, you know, we managed to avoid that was a referral to nuclear fallout. Because, you know, we would drink until we fell over. So it's like fall over, not out, not fall out. Which is a kind of funny sort of phrase. And yeah, I guess it, you know, although I prefer not to fall over nowadays because, you know, I don't bounce like I used to when I was younger. It sort of hurts nowadays. So, you know, I don't really drink that much and I try not to fall over. But yeah, you know, it could be you know, make homebrew not war. You know, what a great phrase.
Also, you were in the UKDK film that was filmed in 1982 and released in 1984.
Yeah.
Are you still a member of I Hop My Grand Gang, the Banging Rockets?
The I Humped My Grand Gang.
The Banging Rockets?
No, not any longer. No. I've got new, yeah, different things that I get up to nowadays. That was referring. I mean, that was you know, that was a shock element. That was you know, we used to write things like that on the back of our jacket, just to offend people, just to maybe try and spark a reaction from somebody else.
Were you recognized more on the street because of the UKDK film or because of Disorder or what? Like just walking down the street after the UKDK film came out?
Oh, what you mean? Like, was it a platform to fame? Somehow?
No, like average people will go, "Hey, I saw you on UKDK film."
No.
So, just curious, that film never made it in the theater in the 80s?
No.
Oh, so it was small time?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it was just, you know, I think it was just a release on video, and yeah, I
Oh,
don't
wow.
think it was released by Cherry Red, I think, wasn't it, if I remember rightly. Um, but no, no, it didn't. I don't think it. You know, I don't think it did that well. I certainly wasn't mobbed by baying fans
Mhm.
since the recording of that. No.
What are some of your favorite memories from shows when you did with Disorder?
Oh, from different shows that we've done. Oh, wow. Well, there's been so many. Um, I would say probably, well, obviously Bristol was our hometown. So we had some fantastic memories of playing in Bristol. And we had the privilege of playing on there was a famous march from the north of England down to London called the Right to Work March, which was quite ironic because obviously I didn't really want to work at the time, but it was in support of the miners' strike in the 1980s. And we joined that march. So we didn't do the whole march, but I think we joined it probably in Birmingham, and we walked down to Bristol. We had the privilege of playing this concert for all the people who were on the march, and that was a fantastic gig. It was absolutely such a brilliant atmosphere, and it really felt quite important. Like to be doing something quite important. Um, then the north of England, in up in the north, we played with in Newcastle, Gateshead. Probably one of the best gigs that still sticks in my mind with Chumbawamba. We met Chumbawamba in Telford when we were playing in Telford, and they used to hang around this sort of squat type sort of cultural centre place, and they were very switched on. We sort of hit it off quite well. They came down to Bristol, and we organised a squat gig where we squatted a church that had no electricity, and we just got a generator somehow from somewhere. I don't know how we managed to do that. We squatted the church, set up the stage, got the generator, and Chumbawamba played, and then we played, and that was a fantastic gig. That was just,
What year was this?
this was probably 1983, I would say, something like that.
Oh, wow, that's a long time ago. Did
Yeah.
Disorder play a lot of benefit shows in the 80s as well?
A lot of what, sorry?
Benefit show, fundraiser benefit show. If so, what kind of benefit shows have you guys played besides the miners' strike?
Yeah, well, we used to play quite often in Bristol. There used to be this Peace Centre, which was a squat, and it was an old car showroom. And we squatted it. There was a squatting movement called BAM, the Bristol Housing Action Movement, which at that time were opening up empty houses for housing associations for people who didn't have anywhere to live. And we played quite a few sort of benefit gigs for them in this squatted gig. Yeah.
On your song "Fuck Your Nationality," I used to have it a long time ago, but you know how it is. As time go by, you lose records and stuff. I forgot. How did the lyrics to "Fuck Your Nationality" go? Destroy all the borders, or how did it go? Fuck your nationality. You were singing it. Fuck your
Tear
nationality.
down all the walls.
Oh yeah, tear down the walls.
Yeah.
That's like a big thing in America now because Trump's wall and stuff. But that's really amazing. Writing a song like that in the 80s to fuck your nationality, tear down the walls. That's really amazing. Did you get a lot of problem with that? Like especially from nationalists, people who are nationalists and stuff, writing a song like that?
We did. I mean, we always had. I think any of the sort of, the bands who played at that time, there was a big skinhead movement, a sort of counter movement, which is very reactionary. And we used to get, we get trouble at the concerts. We get people turning up who wanted to, you know, smash up the concert and would sing, you know, the British national anthem, the English national anthem. So yeah, there were some problems, you know, around that, but you know, that would just seem par for the course, and that's just something. Yeah, it was just an occupational. Getting hit on stage was an occupational hazard, I think, at that time.
Did you guys fight back?
We weren't very good at it. We weren't very good at fight. No, we weren't very good at fighting. Although we did. I remember we played in Italy. There was an anarchist festival in Bologna, in sort of like more or less the middle of Italy, that we played at. And at the front there was all these sort of like Italian skinheads, like fascists, like proper like fascists. And anyway, we were playing, and then suddenly like Taff, the bass player, he had disappeared, and I looked round, and he was actually in the mosh pit swinging his bass round. So I dived off the stage as well with him, and I had the mic stand, and we were just swinging the mic stand and the bass round, and but you know, it didn't really get any further than a few, you know, than that really.
What I don't understand about Disorder, like I forgot what lyric this is, but you had song like something about animal testing, it has to be insane, and like you had songs against nuclear weapon, anti-establishment. Why wasn't Disorder considered an anarcho punk band when you had all that same messages?
I don't know. I think we were just a bit too
much drinking.
I think so. Yeah. I think we were just too chaotic to be considered. You know, we played with bands like that, and we went to see, you know, like I said, we went, you know, Chumbawamba. You know, I had great admiration for Chumbawamba, but they were, you know, they could do things. You know, they knew how to do things. You know, we couldn't organize anything, and that's why we were Disorder. we just couldn't, you know, they'd organize sort of like, you know, they'd organize things like workshops and events, and you know, Crass were busy like sort of infiltrating the mainstream press with, you know, free releases, and that they were, you know, getting into mainstream magazines, and you know, all quite amazing stuff, but we were just completely incapable of doing anything like that. So I think in that sense we were, you know, we didn't dress right either. You know, there was a very clear sort of code on you know, to be an anarcho, you know, band at that time in the 80s, that, you know, there was a clear code that you had to adhere to as far as dress was concerned, as far as the sound of your music was concerned, and of course, you know, well, Disorder, we just didn't, you know, we didn't fit the bill. I mean, we were walking contradictions. We were all vegetarians. We hated the meat industry, but our T-shirts were just bits of cloth that covered sort of carcasses that we get from the butchers for free, because we wouldn't buy a T-shirt.
Also, I want to know, how come Disorder never came to America in the 80s?
Well, again, I think it was just, we just didn't get it together. You know, I just don't think, you know, I think by the time we probably could have, or we were well known enough to be able to play in the United States, you know, we would, well, I speak for myself, you know, I was just too far gone. There's no way I could have, you know, I couldn't be trusted to go and do a tour in the United States. I would, you know, I mean, they had to come and, when we recorded the Live in Oslo, I was still down in Amsterdam. We were doing a tour of Europe, and we met up with these Norwegian bands, Smart Framtid, and well, I can't remember the name of the other band. And and we were going to go back to Norway with them, and then we were going to record, and I ended up in Amsterdam, and I couldn't move from Amsterdam. They had to, in the end, someone had to come and get me. So,
Wow.
To drag me back to Oslo to make a recording. So there's no way there's no way we could have organized a tour of the United States. It just wasn't on the cards.
I really love the Rampton song, the 7-inch. Oh, but then after that, you have Under the Scalpel Blade album came out. Why was it so noisy? Did you turn on the driller for the whole entire time, that background feedback sound?
I know. I don't know what the hell happened there. It was
the whole album was like I don't know if it's a guitar feedback or like you guys turned on the driller.
Well, there was one song where we had the drill, which was Driller Killer. But that terrible sounds, that was Steve, the guitar player. I think he had this idea that the more guitar tracks you put down, the better it was going to sound. And I think he just put so many down that it just, they just one overlaid the other one, and it just ended up being a terrible, like, buzzing sound. Which at the time I was a bit sort of frustrated by the sound of that, because people were getting their shit together. If you listen to like Discharge, they have a really, really good, powerful sound to their music. And that was I thought that was sort of lacking in our, that album should have been of that quality. But it was just a disaster.
That album was really distortion till deafness. Imagine.
Absolutely. Well, John Peel once said that Disorder just sounded like a Triumph Bonneville motorbike. And that was.
Oh yes, and then after you left the band, Disorder did a split with Kafka I think it was called Kafka Process.
Yeah, that's right.
It was pretty good, but after that album, I kind of lost interest in Disorder right after that. So I want to know, what do you think about Disorder now? Do you like the music and everything, or the style direction they're heading to?
Well, I mean, Taff continued with the band, and I think, he just, I think they went through quite a few major lineup changes, and and I think it was all pretty unstable, which was sort of pretty Disorder-like. I mean, Taff is loyal to the Disorder spirit and the Disorder style. I think they still sort of capture that energy and that chaos that was prevalent in the 80s, and they still continue with that. Whether that is relevant now or not is another question.
Are you still involved with the punk movement? Do you want some specific gigs, or?
No, not with the punk movement. But then again, I never really felt like I was part of the punk movement in the first place. I mean, what I believed in was a cooperative way of making music, of using music as a form of like creativity and being able to express ourselves. But punk was very, 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 very elitist. There were
in the 80s.
There were strict rules on what you could and couldn't do, and how you could dress, and nuances about how you were expected to behave. And
oh wow.
I mean, like most subcultures, they have their unwritten laws that everyone needs to abide by, and punk was no different to that. For me, like I said, punk was a platform, what enabled us to be able to, first of all, escape our own maybe nightmares, but also to be sort of creative. And I still believe in that process. I participate in they have here in Spain, they have street bands. They're called like brass bands. And I'm a member of this association that we have a squat, which is a squatted building, and it's been turned into a music school, where we offer music classes to kids in the neighborhood at very reduced prices. They learn to play the trumpet, the trombone, guitar, bass, the drums. We offer them, cheap classes, and then we perform in the street without, not really, no organized concerts or anything like that, but all very underground, but also very sort of traditional at the same time. So it's like traditional music, but in an underground platform.
That's awesome. Do you guys also perform at protests and demonstrations too?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. Yeah, man. Yeah, normally in the demonstrations here, that people will ask us to come along, and there'll be a couple of trumpets, and trombone, a clarinet, a saxophone, and we'll play songs.
You don't miss screaming anymore or anything like that?
No.
More relaxing now, playing this style of music?
I don't have the energy anymore to scream.
Wow.
And I don't know. And unfortunately, it's a pity, but it's true. I don't feel passionate enough about anything to really scream about it.
You're more zen now, right? Got more wiser and zen?
Well, I like to think I've got a little bit more wiser. Whether that's sort of zen or whether I'll ever achieve zen, highly unlikely. I'm too anxious for that, too existential in that sense. But I don't really feel angry enough about anything. And the same, with all this, the BLM at the moment, and this is the stage for the young people. There are some times where I just feel, it's really unfortunate, but I feel like a dithering old man who's unsure of what's going on and what's happening, and it's sad, but it's true.
But what would you say, from doing all the DIY music and stuff since the Disorder days, what was your success and the mistake and failures?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I suppose I'm just trying to think how I can quantify success and failure.
The reason I'm asking is so that like young kids who watch this video, so they could learn something.
Oh, right. Well, don't get involved in drugs, kids. That's the first thing. I think that's where it all went. That's where it all went wrong. But that's just the way I was at the time. But that makes you unreliable, and it also makes you a liability. And no band wants to have a liability. Things are hard enough anyway.
Just curious, was that a big thing in the 80s? Like a lot of the bands in England were doing drugs in the 80s. Was that a big thing?
Yeah, it was a big thing in the punk scene in the 80s.
Wow, okay.
It became very rife. It was in the 80s in general. Yeah, it was rife everywhere.
Also, you live in Spain, and Spain has some like big history of the anarchist movement during the Spanish Revolution and everything like that. So is anarchism pretty well known in Spain, or no? Like mainstream?
Yeah. There is still an anarchist union called the CNT, which was from the Civil War. They were banned, obviously, during the dictatorship, 40 years of dictatorship that Spain had. But they came back into, they flowered again, flourished after Franco, who was the Spanish dictator after he died, and there still is, what was basically an anarchist union called the CNT. Spain has been traditionally very polarized by politics. It's a country of sort of extremes, extreme left, extreme right, and it's also reflected in my local football team. I live in Vallecas, which is a sort of multicultural working class area in the southeast of Madrid, and we have our own football team, and they are Rayo Vallecano, and they are one of the only I'm a proud season ticket holder, and but it's one of the only football teams in Europe, maybe that is extreme left wing politics. Not as though I don't advocate extreme left wing policies. I think communism is a disaster, but it's a reactionary stand against Real Madrid, who were they were the sort of typical, they were the right wing governing class football team, and Rayo Vallecano were like from a working class neighborhood, were always reactionary against that. So in Spain it's very reactionary. It's either if you're this, then we're the opposite, and vice versa. Politics is very polarized here in Spain.
Why did you move to Spain? Was it after you left Disorder, or?
Well, yeah, I ended up in prison here.
You were in prison?
I was indeed, yes. Yes, wow. 7 years.
Wow. Yeah. For 7 years.
Yeah.
Wow, that is a long time. What did you do?
Well, it was drug related, shall we say?
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. How did you survive in 7 years in prison?
Well, how do you survive? Well, by digging deep and being resilient. There's certain things, that obviously that I missed. Affection, for example, male bonding. Everything was very competitive. Everything very, very cold. So you miss that sort of affection. You miss that, the warm relationships. But it's an experience that, for me, I think certainly saved my life.
Wow.
I think the way I was heading and what I was up to, I think it was something that actually saved my life. And the irony is, I think, and I say this, is that I found my freedom in prison.
I have to say, if you did 7 years in prison, that means before you went in, you were like a very, very big time, like drug dealer with boats and mansion. I'm guessing that's the only thing I could think of.
Well, I was 33. I was 33 when I was arrested, and I came out when I was 40.
Wow. Somebody who has that long time sentence, I was thinking, man, he must have boat or like a Scarface lifestyle. But wow. So did you find, so prison, it liberated you? I'm guessing you read many, many books in there and all that to find yourself?
Also, I didn't read that many books. I mean, I read the typical Eric Fromm and Viktor Frankl, Man's Search of Meaning, Fear of Freedom, which are some of the sort of classics on freedom and choice and things like that. So I think that's typical sort of prison reading material. But it was also the people that I met, the people that, the experiences that I had, people that I encountered that, there's no way you would ever be able to meet people like that in in normal circumstances and be able to talk with people and gain perspectives and understand other people. And yeah, it was.
So in Spain, after you get out of prison, you could still teach?
Teach what?
Like, didn't you say you were doing psychology? So are you planning to be like a teacher and stuff, or?
Well, no, I came out of prison, and what I did was I was offered a job working in a needle exchange.
Oh, okay.
So I started working in this needle exchange as a what they call a sort of peer worker, basically combating sort of bloodborne infectious diseases like hepatitis and HIV, and I began to realize that it was actually quite something that was quite useful, and I was actually fairly good at it. So I started studying. I studied psychology with the Open University. Then I went on and did a master's in cognitive behavioral therapy. I did another master's in Gestalt therapy, and now I'm just finishing a master in the emotions of psychology. So I suppose I've become addicted to learning and the consuming of knowledge.
Wow, good for you.
Well, it's certainly a healthier drug, and yeah, and well, I was working in that. I've been working for that NGO since 2003, and I'm still there, still working with them.
Just really quick. So when you get out, was it hard to adjust to society? Were you like in shock and everything, or?
Yeah, totally. Totally in shock. It's very hard. Yeah. I remember traveling on the underground thinking, seeing people in relationships and partners and thinking, oh, is anyone ever going to love me again? Am I ever going to find, I'm ever going to find my place? Will I ever find a job? Doubts and worries that you have. There was no real sort of reinsertion as such. It was just basically open the doors and off you go. But I was determined that I knew exactly where I didn't want to go. I just wasn't sure about where I wanted to go. And as those uncertainty is a scary thing as well. That's why a lot of people go back to doing what they know best, because the fear of the uncertain is so great.
I think this was a quote from Johnny Cash. I'm not sure, but he says something like, when you're in jail, you will know who your real friends are. So did at least any of your old friends write to you, pen pal and stuff like that when you were in prison? Did they keep in touch?
They did.
That's good.
They did. Yeah. It was fantastic. Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, and it's true. The song, you do when you're in jail, you find out who your real friends are. Yeah, exactly. And I did.
Right. To this day, are you in touch with all your old friends and members of Disorder, Amoebics, and everyone because of social media? Are you in touch with everybody?
Pretty much, yes, I am. Yeah. We're pretty much in contact. Yes, not so much because I'm here in Spain and they're in the UK. But I've met up with Steve, for example, the guitarist.
Oh yes.
We met in London a few years ago, and we speak on Messenger, and people from back in the day. Yeah, we're still in touch.
Yeah, I'm friends with Steve too on Facebook. I just realized Steve is not in the band anymore too.
No, Steve started. He left quite a long time ago, and he started a new band. You might want to interview them. He started a band with the singer out of Chaos UK.
Wait, Moore?
Yeah, no, not Moa. No, Chaos, who used to play the bass.
Oh, Chaos. Yes, Chaos.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, well, he was paid to play the bass, and then he started singing, and I think him and Steve have started a new band called Fear of the Known. I think it is FOTK. You can find that. They have a Facebook page.
Oh, I didn't know Steve was doing the band. That's interesting. I got to check it out with Chaos.
Yeah, no, they're doing some quite good stuff. They just recorded quite an interesting single just now. They've just released it with a video. They're doing some good stuff. Yeah, you should check it out, and you should have a word with, get an interview with Steve as well.
Any funny story with Chaos UK and Disorder? Because every time in the 80s, every time people had leather jacket, it was always Chaos UK and Disorder. Why is it always put together on the leather next to each other? Chaos UK and Disorder.
I don't know why not. I suppose it's because we were both from Bristol. Maybe, I don't know. We were sort of about the same sort of band. We had the same sort of following. Maybe, I don't know. We played similar sort of music. I do have a funny story though with Chaos UK with the drummer Potsy. He then we played with them we played with Chaos UK in this festival in France, in Paris, in a place called Reintegration. And when we got there, it was a squat. It was an old ex-army barracks. So we were staying in one of these barracks, and then the concert was going to be in the big hall. We got to the big hall, and this guy was saying, "Okay, well, we've got the sound guy at the top there at the back. He's got an AK-47 rifle. So in case things get, if there's trouble, then he's gonna be armed." We were like, "What the fuck? What do you mean?" Well, so that was a bit worrying. We did the sound check, and then just suddenly the place just started filling up with skinheads. Just literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of skinheads. We were just like going, "What the fuck?" We were I remember we were waiting to go on stage, and I was with Potsy, and we were trying to get drunk because we were basically shitting ourselves. They had this like terrible beer that was about 2%, and you couldn't get drunk on it. I must have drunk about 10 cans, and I didn't feel anything. And we went onto stage, and it was just like a sea of skinheads, just skinheads. And I just kept thinking, "Oh my God, there's this guy up on there with an armor-like rifle, and what the fuck is this?" And we were playing, I was just thinking, let's just play and get the fuck out of here. And we finished playing. This guy said to me, and I thought, he wants me to dedicate a song to him. So I said, "Yeah, what do you want?" And he just went, bam, and headbutted me right on the nose. Split my nose open, blood everywhere. So, "Oh my God, let's get out of here." So I finished the gig. I was covered in blood. And we get out, and we go walk through all these skinheads, like literally hundreds of skinheads, to get to and we're like punks. And we're walking through, and everyone's staring at us. We get almost to our like barracks, and we can hear this running behind us. Run, thinking, "Fuck, here we go." Here we go. And I turned around, and there was this French skinhead, and he was going, "Bah, bah, 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 bah." I said, "Well, I don't know what you're saying." He went, "Oh, English, okay," and went off. And he was like one of the Redskins, because apparently there was two. We didn't know this at the time.
Oh, Redskin, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there were two bands. There was the Redskins, and there was the sort of Nazi skinheads.
Right, the anti-Redskins.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but you couldn't really tell them apart. They all looked the same to me.
Those are the cool skinheads.
Yeah, really cool. Well, I was so happy to see a Redskin, at that moment, Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, but that was a funny story with them.
Did some of the crazy skinheads from the 80s, have they changed? Have you run into them before you went to prison or anything? Did they mellow out, or are they still crazy like that?
I don't know. I think everybody mellows out after a while, surely. I don't know. I do, I try not to have too much to do with really, really crazy people.
That's good. Back to prison. When you were in prison, did you run into punks in prison too? Were there some punks there?
Yeah. From there's a part of Spain called the País Basque, which is a part that's always fighting for independence from Spain, and a lot of the sort of like the street, you know, they used to. There was a terrorist organization that was linked to them called ETA. They've now disbanded, but at that time they had like sort of street gangs that would go around burning like bank IT machines and things like that, just doing sort of like things that kids do. And a lot of them were sort of punks. There was a big sort of punk movement in the north of Spain. So yeah, I did meet quite a few in the prison. Yes, yeah.
So I'm guessing you no longer listen to punk music anymore?
I don't really listen to any music. I'm a bit of a disaster in that sense.
Oh.
I know, and you know, and to be honest with you, you see, I never really listened to music anyway because I always lived in squats and there was never any electricity. We never had any sort of electricity or any way of listening to music, really. Maybe a tape or something. So the only stuff that I would listen to would be maybe some weird sort of hardcore Japanese punk music that I had a tape for or something like that. And maybe that would be it. But I never really, like listened to music. I mean, I do nowadays. And what Steve has just been recording, I've been listening to that quite recently. I like that. But I couldn't tell you anything about sort of tendencies in the punk rock scene at the moment.
Do you still read books over and over? Because you mentioned a long time ago in the 80s, you read the Clockwork Orange book over and over. Do you still read same books over and over or not?
No, not so much. No. I think I read that over and over because it probably took me a while to get my head around it. So I needed to read it 3 or 4 times before I really understood what it was about.
Wow. Thank you so much for this interview. I will check out Steve's band and everything. But do you have any last comment or anything to say? Closing comment?
Yeah. Well, not really. It'd be a bit pretentious of me to believe that I have some sort of grand message that I may be able to transmit to somebody. Just, I suppose to thank you for taking an interest, and it's encouraging to know that maybe I do have something still to offer. So thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to be able to talk about struggles, difficulties, overcoming things, and participating in life.
Do you think you're gonna write a book or anything? Because it's like so interesting, your life, like being in a punk band, then prison for 7 years, and doing all this amazing studies and degrees and everything. That's really a big change from living in a squat life to what you are in a position right now. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I have thought about it, and I did actually start to sort of collect some information about. You see, the thing is, my memory is quite hazy of those days, so it's difficult for me to actually remember times and dates. I mean, I could certainly write a book about the general feeling of what it was all about back then, but anecdotal tales, I'm afraid, escape me quite often.
Wow, it has to be like part 2 or something, just talking about in jail for 7 years. Wow, that's like blow my mind. That's like this thing. Wow. But yeah, anyways, my favorite Disorder album was I love that song from Under the Scalpel Blade. Some of the songs there. Then the Distortion, well, not Distortion Definite. There was another one that has Live. What was that album that has Life in it?
Oh, Perdition. It was a 12-inch.
Yes. I always get that confused with Distortion to Deafness. Yeah, Perdition was amazing because recording was so clean on Perdition.
Yeah.
Then the 7-inch, what was that? Mental Disorder. That was my favorite. That was like The best.
Yeah.
Mental
That
disorder.
was with the Rampton song. That's where we were consolidating ourselves as the band of mental illness.
Yes, I love your vocals on that. I mean, in the 80s, I don't know any punk bands who sing about mental illness like that under the scalpel blade or anything like that. I don't know if you know this. Some of the punks became like counselors on mental issues in America and stuff in Northern California.
Right. Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah.
Yes. But thank you very much. And I wish you all the best and stuff. I'm going to edit this video. I'm going to add some photos and videos and stuff so it'll look more interesting. And I will upload it to YouTube next week.
Fantastic. All right.
All right. Before I stop this, don't hang up yet. I just want to say much respect for you, okay? Okay. I'm going to stop this video. Hold on. Don't hang up. All right. Thank you, Boobs.